Your name gives me dominion over you, demon, and I do know your name. You are Val, the defiler, the profane, the Marquis of snakes. If you've seen The Conjuring 2, you know that scene. Lorraine Warren, crucifix in hand, staring down that horrific nun-shaped thing. It's powerful, emotional, epic. But if you've ever actually opened a demonology grimoire, that scene also makes you wince a little. Because if Valac could talk back in that moment, he'd probably say, "Actually, that's not quite right. The snake thing? Fair. The rest? Eh." Because here's the truth the movies don't tell you. Valac is absolutely associated with serpents, but he is not a Marquis. He is not a nun. And in the old grimoires, he doesn't even look remotely like what you see on screen. The real Valac is described as a small boy, with angelic wings, riding on the back of a two-headed dragon, and his job? To find hidden treasure, and bring you snakes. So tonight, we're going to strip away the Hollywood makeup and look at the actual Valac, where his name came from, how he evolved through different grimoires, and what this demon was supposed to do centuries before the Conjuring universe turned him into a nightmare nun. Get comfortable, because this story goes deep back through medieval manuscripts, magical hierarchies, King Solomon legends, and even a possible connection to an old Slavic god. And somewhere in that tangle of lore and ink is the real Valac. To understand Valak, we first need to talk about what people actually mean when they say Goetic demon. Most people familiar with horror or occult circles hear that word and immediately think of the Ars Goetia, a section of a 17th century grimoire called The Lesser Key of Solomon. That book famously lists 72 demons supposedly summoned and bound by King Solomon of ancient Israel using a magic ring given to him by God. Each demon in the Goetia has its own little profile, name, rank, appearance, powers, and a sigil or seal. It basically reads like a medieval monster manual, and Valak is one of those 72. But here's the key detail. The Lesser Key of Solomon is not where Valak started. That book was compiled in the 1600s based on earlier handwritten manuscripts. Valak's roots go further back to the weird, messy world of medieval magic, where half the texts claim to be written by Solomon, and almost none of them actually were. If you go back far enough, almost every road in demonology leads to one text. The Testament of Solomon. This is a much older book, written sometime between the 1st and 11th centuries. It claims to be the first-hand testimony of King Solomon himself, describing how he received a ring from God engraved with a powerful seal. Using that ring, he summons demons, questions them, and forces them to help build the Temple of Jerusalem. Whether or not that's true historically, almost certainly not. But spiritually and culturally, the Testament became the grandfather of demon grimoires. It's the first big text that treats demons as individuals with names, personalities, and specific jobs. Jump forward centuries into medieval Europe. Now we're in a world where monks, magicians, and occultists are copying texts by hand, sometimes faithfully, sometimes sloppily, and sometimes with a bit of creative editing. A wave of new grimoires appear, all claiming to reveal Solomon's magic. They carry titles like the Book of Spirits, the Office of Spirits, the False Monarchy of Demons, and this is where things get interesting. Because the demons listed in these medieval grimoires often do not match the ones in the Testament of Solomon. The lists change, names appear and disappear. Some demons show up in one book as a prince, and in another as a duke. It's chaos. But somewhere in this chaos, a small winged boy on a dragon quietly slips into existence. The earliest place we meet him is in a 15th century manuscript called Liber Officiorum Spirituum, the Book of the Office of Spirits. It's based on an even older French text called Livre des Esprits, the Book of Spirits. In the Book of Spirits, there are 46 demons. Valac, under any spelling, is not one of them. But in the Book of the Office of Spirits, the list expands to 82 demons, and among those new additions are two figures, one named Cooler and one named Doulas, sometimes written Doulas or Doulas. On paper, these look like two separate demons. They have their own entries and their own positions on the list, but when you read their descriptions, something strange happens. Cooler is described as a great prince who appears like a child with wings like a goshawk. He rides upon a dragon with two heads and gives true answers regarding hidden treasures. Doulas is described as, wait for it, a great prince who appears like a child with angelic wings. He rides upon a two-headed dragon, reveals hidden treasures, keeps treasures where serpents appear, commands household spirits, gives serpents to the summoner, and rules 20 legions of spirits. Same child, same dragon, same treasure, same snakes. Doulas sounds like the extended director's cut of Cooler. This is why most modern editors and occult researchers assume that Cooler and Doulas are the same entity, accidentally duplicated under different names. Remember, these books weren't written in Word with spell check. They were manual compilations of earlier drafts, loose notes, half-translated scraps. It's not hard to imagine one scribe copying Cooler from one source and another copying Doulas from another, and both ending up in the final manuscript. And if that's true, then those two odd names, Cooler and Doulas, are the earliest forms of the demon who would later become known as Valac. Same description, different name, but the story doesn't stop there. In another 15th century manuscript, known as the Munich Manual of Demonic Magic, our dragon-riding child appears again, this time under a single, slightly more familiar name, Volk. In the Munich Manual, Volk is described as a boy with angelic wings, riding a two-headed dragon, giving true answers about hidden treasures. The text says he can bring serpents into the hands of the exorcist, and that he commands 26 legions of spirits. So what we see here is that the author of the Munich Manual seems to have merged Cooler and Doulas into one demon under a new name, Volk or Valac. The features are the same, the snakes are still here, the treasure is still here, but now it's all one being rather than two. There's another important difference though. In the Book of the Office of Spirits, Cooler and Doulas are called princes. In the Munich Manual, Volk is ranked as a president a step lower in some demonic hierarchies. No explanation is given. No demonic HR memo is found. For whatever reason, he got demoted on paper, and that demotion sticks. When we jump forward to the 16th century, we meet this demon again in a work called Pseudo-Monarchia Daemonum, the False Monarchy of Demons, written by Johann Weyer, a Dutch physician and occult researcher. Weyer lists 69 demons. One of them is named Valac. Valac appears as a child with angelic wings, riding a two-headed dragon, revealing hidden treasures, dealing with serpents, and commanding 30 legions of spirits. So once again, same character, slightly different spelling, slightly different legion count. Someone's been recruiting. Weyer's Pseudo-Monarchia becomes one of the major sources for another famous text, the one we mentioned at the start. The Lesser Key of Solomon, compiled in the 17th century, especially the section called the Ars Goetia. By the time the Ars Goetia is assembled, this little demon has gone through a full identity makeover. Cooler, Doulas, Volk, Valac, and finally, Valac. Depending on the manuscript, he's listed as Valac, Valac, Valax, Volak, Valu, or Ualac, but the core description is always the same. In the Ars Goetia, Valac is the 62nd spirit. He is a mighty president who appears as a small boy with angel's wings riding upon a two-headed dragon. His office is to reveal the location of hidden treasures and to tell where serpents may be seen. He will bring those serpents to the conjurer, without the conjurer needing to use force. And according to some versions, he commands as many as 38 legions of spirits. Now, if we use Johann Weyr's number that a single legion contains 6,666 demons, then 38 legions means Valak has around 253,308 spirits under his authority. Not bad for a kid on a dragon. Speaking of demons and authority, let me pause here for a second. If you're still with me at this point, you're clearly into this kind of long-form, deep-dive occult content, the kind where we actually trace the lore instead of just slapping a jump scare on it. So do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button. It tells me this is the kind of content you want more of, and it really helps the channel grow. Alright, let's get back to the President of Snakes. One thing the Ars Goetia gives us that the movies never really mention is Valak's seal. This is a symbol, a sigil that represents his essence. In Solomonic magic, when a magician wants to summon and control a demon, they don't just clap and say, "Appear." They use circles, words of power, divine names, and the demon's seal. The seal of Valak is usually drawn in a circle, with an intricate pattern that looks sort of like a stylized letter form mixed with looping lines. It doesn't look like a snake, or a child, or a dragon. It looks like a coded signature. Magicians were instructed to engrave this seal on a metal appropriate to the demon's rank. Because Valak is a president, his seal should be made on Mercury or a metal associated with the planet Mercury. The idea is that the seal functions like a spiritual ID badge and leash at the same time. You wear it or place it in your ritual as tangible proof that you're calling a specific spirit and as an anchor to bind it by divine authority. Now, there's another layer to this story that doesn't get talked about much outside serious demonology discussions, and that's the idea of adversarial angels. In one 17th century version of the Ars Goetia edited by Thomas Rudd, every demon in the list is paired with a specific angel, an opposite, a counterforce. Rudd draws on a mystical Jewish tradition called the Shem HaMeforash, which involves 72 names of God. From those names, occultists derived 72 angels, each one matched against one of the 72 Goetic demons. These angels are meant to be the antidotes to the demons. The ritual logic goes like this. Before conjuring the demon, you call upon its opposing angel, asking that angel to give you control and protection during the encounter. In Rudd's system, the angel opposing Valak, who he spells value, is named Iahel or Yahel. The seal of Iahel has a Latin verse from the Bible, Psalm 119, 159. Consider how I love thy precepts. Quicken me, O Lord, according to thy loving kindness. Iahel is said to preside over wisdom, knowledge, tranquility, modesty, and the love of solitude and virtue. He governs philosophers, deep thinkers, and those who seek enlightenment. So picture that spiritual dynamic for a moment. On one side, you have Valak, who says, "I know where the hidden things are. I can lead you to treasure. I can bring you serpents." On the other side, you have Iahel, who says, "Seek wisdom, love truth, embrace calm. Don't be deceived by shiny, dangerous things." It's almost like the demon and the angel are two sides of the same human desire. The urge to uncover what is hidden, and the urge to understand it safely. There's one more angle people like to explore. Is Valak actually a demonized pagan god? Some Goetic demons can be traced back to ancient deities whose reputations were rewritten by Christian authors. Baal, for example, shows up as both a god and a demon. But Valak isn't as clear. There's no ancient temple of Valak, no inscriptions, no myths. One name that occasionally comes up in this conversation is Veles, a Slavic god associated with earth, water, livestock, forests, wealth, trickery, and the underworld. Veles is also tied to serpents and dragons. In some myths, he takes on a dragon-like chimeric form, part bear, part snake. And some of his name variations, like Volos, have a faint echo of Valac or Volk. It's tempting to draw a straight line, Veles Volak, Valak, but historically, we know what happened to Veles after Christianity spread. His darker traits blended into the figure of the devil, while his more positive aspects got redistributed into Christian saints. If there had been a direct transformation from Veles into Valak, you'd expect more obvious documentation. So while it's a fun theory, it's not solid. Most likely, Valak is what he appears to be, a distinctly medieval demon shaped by multiple authors, manuscripts, and maybe a bit of creative invention. He isn't a nun. He isn't a Marquis. He probably doesn't stalk convents in candlelight, but he is one of the stranger Goetic spirits, a childlike figure with angelic wings, perched on a dragon with two heads, surrounded by serpents, pointing out where the gold is buried. And yet, despite all of this, his entire presence in grimoires amounts to a handful of paragraphs across a few books. That's it. No epic saga, no ancient religion, just a short entry, repeated and reshaped over centuries, until one day a horror writer went, "That name sounds creepy. Let's use that." And Valak, the quiet winged boy of old books, was reborn as a towering demonic nun in a haunted franchise. It's kind of poetic, isn't it? A demon whose whole thing is uncovering hidden treasure became a hidden treasure of demonology himself, waiting in the background for someone in modern times to dig him up and unleash him onto the big screen. If you've stayed with me this long, thank you. You now know more about Valak than 99% of people who have seen The Conjuring. Next time someone mentions the Marquis of Snakes, you'll know he's actually a president. You'll know he first showed up under weird names like Cooler and Doulas. You'll know about the two-headed dragon, the treasure, the legions of spirits, and the angel who stands against him. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the real lore behind a famous horror demon, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I've got plenty more demons, angels, and grimoires to explore with you. And in the comments, tell me this: which demon do you want to see covered next? I'll scroll through, and whichever name has the most likes will be the one I research for the next episode in this series. Thanks for watching. Sleep well, and good night.